Where is he?
Okay, there we go.
Okay.
Ruth, I just let Elliot in.
Good. This is good. Okay.
Hi,
Good.
Melvin. Hi, Melvin.
Good.
Hi, Pam.
Hi.
Pamela. Hi,
All
Pam.
right.
Hi, Kim.
Paula.
This would be a great help.
Oh, hey, Papa.
All
Here comes
right. We have a few minutes, but Elliot came. I'm so glad. Elliot, thank you for coming. Thank you.
I'm excited to be here. I'm kind of impressed. I don't do a lot of these. My kid does, and then I was trying to figure it all out, and then I get here and look at all you guys, just like these technical wizards. I'm just thinking maybe some of you guys can hack into my school and change my grades from high school, because
If we could, we would.
Mrs. White gave me a C in typing, and I just think I deserve better. I did 68 words a minute, but I was a bit of a social butterfly.
We have like we have
Hey, it's Paul Greene.
visiting guys
Hi,
here.
Paul.
What's
Paul's
going
also
on?
Oh, wow. And Paul on at the same time.
Hi, everybody.
Hey.
Hi, Paul.
Hey, Paul.
Shirley.
How are y'all doing?
Good.
Great. Good.
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 How are
Elliot,
you?
Elliot, are you standing up?
I am sitting down.
I know.
I'm not trying to take that. Do you want me to?
You look like you're standing up.
No, if I stand up, then you'd see my chest.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Oh, yeah,
Which,
You might have on shorts.
which is which isn't what it was pre-COVID. So I'm gonna sit down, Paul.
Got it. Nice to see you, everyone.
Yeah,
I'm glad you could come, Elliot.
I'm happy to come. This is great. I feel like I've arrived.
Yes, meet everybody. Everyone. Elliot is I know Ruth has explained it, but Elliot is now, do you want to tell us how you got started with Edify and why in the nickel you own whencallsaheart.com?
Yeah.
And
Like the nickel.
Okay, before we
Yeah.
start, before we do that, I think probably I need to, if you guys could all mute yourself. Actually, I think I can mute you guys.
Hell, I ain't even started. You want me to mute?
Well, not you, but
No, I get this a lot at home.
Yeah, we want to make sure that we can actually hear you. Let's see. Let me see where.
So much for playing to the laughter of the audience.
right.
I was laughing. What happens though if you don't?
I like
it. It can be a little bit. It can get a little noisy.
No, I hear you.
Yeah.
You can unmute yourself, Elliot, because I think Ruth will have to mute you, and then you can unmute yourself. Yeah. What happens, unfortunately, is if it's, you guys might be quiet, but there might be a phone ring in your background or something that then the camera goes to your screen, and it can slow things down just a little bit. Not like we don't want to hear you all laugh. Your laughter is very contagious. Not the right word for during a pandemic, but you know what I mean. Right? Where'd Elliot go? Elliot, are you?
Oh, I'm here. Yeah, sorry, I was agreeing with you, Paul, as I normally do, but this time you couldn't hear it.
Oh, yeah, okay. And Ruth, did you have an agenda that you wanted to? Because I can only be here this first half hour. Did you? I just sort of jumped right in, but I apologize. You probably had a little bit of. Did you want to make an introduction, or did you want to give a little context to this thing before I take over?
She's muted.
Unmute yourself, Ruth.
Don't worry, I speak. I read lips. What she said is, I'm super excited. Elliot's here. He looks great. I love his coat.
Especially standing. Well, he's standing. He looks better standing.
He's standing.
Okay, now,
I know you're gonna help me
now-
with my framing here, Paul. Like, I'm sure that I'm not. I'm gonna scoot in.
Bring it in a bit and bring it down a bit. You see all that dead space above your head?
Okay, now can you think of a different way to say space? That hurts a little.
There we go. Less
Right.
room and more of you.
More pure concentrated hotness.
That's right.
All
Okay.
right.
Okay, so actually, I think Paul, your question was perfect for Elliot. If you could tell us how you got started with Edify Film,
Sure.
And
There's somebody sneaking up behind you.
And as go and I think Paul, your question was how the nickel you happen to own whencallstheheart.com, how that came
Yeah,
about.
that was a sub question / joke, and I'm also curious, but And then,
Okay.
and so I'm sure you know this, Elliot, but all of these folks here, most of them are in a VIP group on Facebook that is a subscription group. So it's a thing that came available a few months ago that, and we try to bring more intimate experience to the fans, and
Great.
and they get first release of music and trailers and things like that. And then there's the signed CD giveaway, or sorry, a signed headshot giveaway. A lot of folks in here have actually received CDs of Freedom for Your Soul from you through giveaways, because many of these folks have been on my concerts since the beginning, since Arrowhead. So that's just a little context about these people. All the folks here are very generous, very loving, super creative. A lot of them take graphics, Elliot, and like pictures and turn them into like really cool pieces of art. And they've been a big support group as well through the pandemic, but some of them have also done the courses I was telling you about that Kate and I have done.
Yeah.
The Freedom Alchemist course, the Life You Love Academy, there's a bunch of different names for it, but where Kate took them through a bit of a mind recalibration, like a gym, and I shared a lot of my physical nutrition and life hacks for longevity and sort of the freedom in your body. And then Kate and I shared a bit on relationship as well, and we did it for 8 weeks. And so many of these folks are from there as well. And then we have a few guests that are just checking out the group to see if they want to be a part of it. So Ruth has reached out to a few people that wanted to come to the group but are not yet a part of the group. So that's sort of the context. Everyone's all around the world. We have folks in Indonesia and in France, and do jazzy hands if you're not in the United States, guys. Like just put up both your hands. Yeah, so right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And if you're in Canada, so if you're not in North America, do jazzy hands. Right, so that changed it a little bit. We have two. We have Veronica in Sweden, and Timmy, right, that are in Europe. Did I miss anybody else? If I missed you got to be more flamboyant. Lisa Taylor in Australia, and Naniki in the same town my mom was born, and Waina in Indonesia. Yeah, if I don't see your jazz, you got to be more jazzy. Okay. And Helen. All right.
And Barbara,
Helen, this is what
Barbara just came on. She's from Hungary.
Okay, so isn't that awesome? We have folks all over the world, and a funny joke, Elliot, when someone would win a CD, I wouldn't ask where they were from, and then I would cringe when I had to like send a message to you, and I'd be like, Elliot, this one's in Australia. You gotta send it to Australia. And I'd always be checking in with Elliot, being like, all right, is this still working? Like, I know it takes a bit to send things across the world, but so that's some context, buddy, on who's here. And if you just want to share a little bit about yourself and
Sure.
how you started the Edify and whencallstheheart.com and all that.
Yeah, there's a longer version of this and there's a shorter version, and I'm going to give you kind of the shorter version. But basically, prior to Edify Films, I owned a company called Edify Media, and Edify Media at one point was handling all the publicity for. Go ahead. Oh, that's somebody already had a question. Somebody handling all the publicity for 20th Century Fox on the video side. So I've worked on a variety of films. My first really big one was The Passion of the Christ, the DVD release, where I first met Michael Landon was I worked on that Love Comes Softly, and then Love's Enduring Promise, Love's Long Journey, Love's Abiding Joy, then The Last Sin Eater, Saving Sarah Kane. There was just a variety of movies that Michael and Brian were doing. All of those were being funneled through 20th Century Fox, so over the years, Michael and I'd be spending the day as he'd be doing radio interviews and what have you. Then I've done movies like The Help, for Disney, Flicka. I'd even have Fox, 20th Century Fox, just because of the nature of the way we work. We would acquire things they weren't used to getting. Like I would get way more interviews than they would typically get, because they would tend to say focus on New York, Chicago, LA, and I'd be hitting like Birmingham, Alabama, or Houston, or Macon, Georgia, or what have you. And so they'd throw crazy movies at me like Big Mama's House. And I'm like, I can't work on Big Mama's House. And they're like, well, it has a church scene. And I go, did you watch the church scene? So there'd be There'd be a variety now. So then we started getting into more production. So my wife used to make hundreds of commercials. So that's Tiffany. Is anybody familiar with Tiffany Wallach? If you've enjoyed any of our bonus content, predominantly that's a love letter from Tiffany. So Tiffany worked doing commercials for Sunkist and Anheuser-Busch, and then moving into movies, she was a line producer and edited a few films and unit production manager. And then ultimately we started getting into providing our customers things like movie trailers and authoring DVDs. And one of those customers was Word. Now, Word is the one that had the first 3 seasons of Wind Calls the Heart. And so when we were the ones still making the bonus content and authoring all of the DVDs and all of that. So then the decision was made with Word. They were purchased that they were going to step away from the DVD business and just do music. So Word used to be a music label that had people like, say, Amy Grant. And so when they did that, Edify Films is literally a company I've had incorporated since 2007 with the idea of moving into distribution and, God willing, movie production. That's our dream, is to become a content provider. So then it was just a very natural segue for us to start, because we're already making the product. The only thing left was just to interface with the stores and, and actually do the manufacturing, which we had done plenty of that before. So that was pretty much the birth of Edify Films. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And then how did you end up with whencallstheheart.com? Like, how did you beat them to that?
Well, that's a really good question. The the real question is how I got whenhopecalls, because I have that too. So whencallstheheart.com, was a vanity domain name that somebody, had picked up, and they were just sitting on it. And so they were asking more money than apparently other people were willing to pay, but I was willing to pay for it. So I bought it. And When Hope Calls, I just got it. I was just able to register that. If Paul and I ever got together and made a movie together and we came up with a title, if the domain name wasn't available, we would come up with a different title. And the thing is with domain names is I feel like somewhere President Trump has some guy behind him, wearing a suit with dark glasses, and he's got a suitcase and it's handcuffed to him, and inside is the nuclear football. And that means it's the codes to actually launch a nuclear weapon. Now, I don't know what those codes are. I just know whatever that code is, .com, is probably taken.
It's true.
Yeah.
That's a really long, well thought out joke. Have you told that one before?
I just thought of it just for you, Paul. I dedicate that joke to Paul Greene.
Right. Like, it's confusing because whenever you bring up Trump, everyone tenses up a little bit.
Yeah,
And
I know.
And then you throw in nuclear codes and it just gets a little more tense. And I was hoping the relief would be a little bigger.
I'm sorry to let you down on that, Paul. I'm living on the edge.
And so
you don't swing the bat, you don't hit the ball.
That's right. That's right. So do you want to share how we met, Elliot? The first, like how?
Yeah, just on the set would have been the first time. Just interviewing would have been my thoughts. Did you have another thought?
Yeah. So with the DVDs, everyone watching, let me know what's Jazz Hands. This is just the only way to do it that we can actually see, but it's still fun. If you own DVD and there's like bonus content in it, do any of you guys have DVDs from Edify and When Calls the Heart of the show? Yeah. So there's interviews in there, and they actually ask really cool questions. When I first met them, they're didn't just ask really cool questions, they listened really well. So it allowed to share some things. And we do a lot of their EPKs, their electronic press kits that we do for Hallmark Channel. And then also there's another one for Brad's company. And they have been, Elliot and Edify have come, and his wife and Tiffany have come, and they set up their cameras and they interview the actors and ask us, what's coming in the season, and without spoilers, because it's usually on the DVD at the end or during or something. So that's how we first met. And there was just a strong rapport and like great, I would say, dry, sarcastic kind of humor, but with also a depth of enjoying depth and conversation and meaningfulness, as well as a great deal of ridiculousness, I would say.
Yeah, the thing is the people, particularly on that When Calls the Heart set, are so, I envy you in the sense that you work with them and you get to see them all day. We just kind of come out for those couple days, but they're for me, humor's a big thing, and there's so many people that are so funny when you get each in it. It's always an ab workout for me. And the thing is, typically the questions are, Paul, what do you think the secret is behind the success of When Calls Heart? Why do people continue to show up year after year? And I'm like, Paul, when have you ever died? Paul, can you tell us about accents? Paul, what's your most embarrassing moment? What's the thing you don't want me to ask? I mean, I'm interested in the people. I mean, it's so fascinating. Paul Greene is like somebody you wish he wasn't famous, like he was a short order cook at some diner down the road, and you'd be able to go to the movies with him and have him do his Donald Duck thing. Because frankly, I don't have anybody in my life that can do that, and if they did, they wouldn't do it as well, right?
That's right. You asked me, would you ask me if I knew an accent, and then I shared my Donald Duck accent.
Yeah, and then that just blossoms all these cool stories about how you do it in the theater, that you always do it in every movie.
Yeah, before a movie starts, right when it goes black, I bark. I go, "Ruff!" And then I'm like, shh, shh, shh. And nobody knows if there's really a dog. But I set it up as I'm entering the theater before anybody can see me. I bark as you're walking into the theater before they see me. So it's like, ruff, ruff, like a setup. And then everyone, when you walk in, everyone's confused. But when just before the movie starts, I do my little bark and I pretend he's in my coat. And I'm like, shh, ruff, shh, shh, shh. And everyone's like, oh, how cute. And others are like, what are you doing with a dog in here? It's like, it's awesome. I've done it for 15 years, maybe more. As soon as I knew how to bark like Donald Duck, which is another story. But
I hope you're passing that mantle on to your son. I just think it's part of my bucket list now, I think, is to be trapped, and take this as a compliment because it's a very short list, to be trapped on a desert island with you, because I would come out very centered mentally. I'd be in phenomenal physical shape, and I wouldn't leave until I could do that. And I'd have to do it.
Duck?
Yes. Yeah, you'd be my Mr. Miyagi for the Donald Duck, because I would love to do that in theaters. When's the last time you even go to the theaters? I should do it now, because the theaters aren't even open. I got time to practice. Yeah.
It's a genetic thing. I don't know if it's teachable. My cousin taught me in the back of my dad's airplane when we were, which sounds like a fancy thing, but my dad had a 1964 plane, which I learned to fly when I was 20, or he taught me to fly it when I was in my teens, and then I eventually took it over the plane. It was like a 1964 plane. My cousin and I were in the back and looking out the window, and he was talking like Donald Duck. I was like, how do you do that? And he somehow showed me where to put the thing in your mouth. And I've never been able to teach anybody else. I can't teach it. I don't know why. I think it's genetic.
Maybe you just need the right student. I don't know. Does your dad still have the airplane? Maybe that had some plaque. Maybe we can go there.
No, it's gone. Airplane sold. I sold it. I bought it and then sold it 10 years ago. That plane, I wish I hadn't. It was so cool. And yeah, I have pictures of it though. And I flew in it since I was really little, that little plane. And many close calls with death in that plane, and which brings you closer to God. Like so many stories of my mom praying when we're above clouds, and she'd be like, a little hole would appear, and we would circle down through the clouds. And my mom I was recently speaking to my mom, and she was sharing with me a bunch of flying stories that I didn't even know.
Yeah. Wow. So on top of everything else, you've got a pilot's license.
Yeah, there's a lot of pilots in my family. It's your environment. I grew up around motorcycles and planes. This is how I grew up.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Well, I grew up around, my dad was a furnace technician, and I couldn't help you if you don't have any heat. So
you have no way to fix a furnace.
Just being around it. No, in fact, my dad told me to put oil in the car once. And when I was in high school, I borrowed the car, and he said, put oil in the car. And I go, okay, so he comes out, he goes, did you get oil in the car? I go, yeah, I didn't really need it. And he goes, what do you mean it didn't need it? I go, well, it just overflowed. And he goes, what? And then he runs out to the car. He goes, where did you put the oil? I go, in the engine. He goes, that's the steering control. So I poured the oil into the steering control, which probably makes me sound like a complete imbecile to your, I could do things with my Commodore 64, but nothing that way. And I checked the transmission too, for those of you playing at home.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I see a few girls in there kind of smiling or nodding. I can't tell if you're nodding because you're like, been there, man, been there. I put it in the washer fluid, or you're just like, you poor person. Yeah, I pay to have that stuff fixed.
It's easy to put the oil in the wrong thing in there, especially if it's like in the transmission fluid or something. If you've never been under a hood, you probably shouldn't be under a hood.
No, he was living on the edge telling me to go do something like that. It's not something you do twice, but he wasn't something he'd ask twice either. So I never really don't ever remember him asking me to put on the car after that. But that's not my aptitude, I'm more of a math science guy, and so I don't even know if the Donald Duck thing would go too, because my aptitudes, I don't know if did I was in the military?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, I was in the military, and I was a Russian linguist in the army. So я говорю немного по-русски. Anybody out there speak Russian? Anybody jazzy hands?
You got to ask for jazz hands.
Yeah, no jazzy hands. People speak Russian. Oh, немного? Timmy from London. She's like a little bit. Yeah, no, there's the largest minority in Spokane. That's where I live. Is Russian. We have more Russians than anywhere else. But there's a lot of people that do speak Russian here. But I'm unique. There's not many that can speak it as badly as I can. So I'm kind of a big deal around here. Yeah, but it's not my aptitude. I mean, most people failed out. I mean, we had probably 130 guys, and maybe like 54 of them made it through. So that I was kind of proud of. But just some people are just linguistic sponges. They just pick it up really quickly. I know there's people here. Anybody here speak like 3 languages?
Anybody not in America, probably anybody that lives in Europe does, or at least a couple.
Timmy over there, she did it again. She's like, she speaks some Russian.
She's winning the bingo. She's winning the gallery bingo. Let's take a question, Elliot. The first one, Ruth, in the chat. I see Paula Waters is the first one, right?
Yes, she is. She is.
Paula, do you have I have to leave at 1:30. So Paula, do you have a question in relation to maybe myself and Elliot, or just for Elliot? What time is it here? Oh, shoot.
Yeah, I was just wondering, you're talking about jobs, and what was Elliot's first job?
Elliot's first job. Okay. I've always been fairly entrepreneurial. I'm going to say my first job was a button salesman. When Mount St. Helens erupted, when I was in the 5th grade, we had a button press as a family, and I hand drew commemorative Mount St. Helens eruption buttons and would try to sell them to the clerks at the mall. And then I would I'd cut out comics and sell them during recess. I was that guy. I was Alex P. Keaton.
Would you cut out the comic and put it in a button?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Like Green Lantern or something like that.
We need a Paul Greene button. Can you do some Paul Greene buttons? And,
I know a guy. I got a button guy.
That would be really cool. Actually, I have a cool button from my friend from a band, and I looked at it and I was like, it'd be really neat to have buttons.
You've kind of arrived. If you've got a button, you're like one step down from like a political candidate. As a band guy, you got your own button.
Use buttons. Paul doesn't use buttons. He just.
And if we're gonna make a Paul button, we're gonna bring back those guys that used to wear like those, the suspenders with all the buttons. Now we can put some Paul Greene buttons. Then you're a super fan. Then
I had a Corey Hart button when I was in high school. Yeah,
I should have done those. Missed it.
Yeah, you missed it. The comic book and the button sounds really cool, though. I like that.
Yeah, we didn't have a lot of money, so you had to do what you had to do.
My first job was selling shower heads door to door. That my dad had purchased a company that made water efficient shower heads, and I think I was 12 or 13. I would go door to door with a briefcase, and there was different models. And my dad gave me 50% of each sale, and I was really good at it. I got used to rejection. I was practicing for auditions, because later I would, I've told this story many times, but I've had 640 auditions and 600 rejections, like 600 no's. And I like to think that those shower heads were a practice for that. I got a lot of rejection.
I'm going to repost that Hope Valley highlight we made of you. I thought it should have been like required viewing of every student in the country, because that was such a good thing about rejection. I tell kids, failure is awesome. Failure is the kindling of success. Yeah,
you do. And I remember you guys, that's one of the questions you asked, and you asked a really great question. And I remember the way that your wife really does beautiful work on,
thanks, man,
on editing, for sure.
Yeah, she does. I tell people I won her in a raffle. It's the only way it makes sense.
She's awesome. She's got such a great personality. I don't know what happened to your personality, but hers is awesome.
I don't know. I took a couple. My mom dropped me up a flight of stairs.
Up a flight of stairs.
Up the flight of stairs. Yeah, she was persistent.
That's throwing. That's checking.
Yeah, no, Tiff's something else. And her whole family's just amazing. They're incredible. Yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love
Faye,
that.
we just got, gosh, I met her in April and we're married by September. And I think we've been married now 23 years.
Beautiful.
Without a net.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. You're out of your league though. She's like,
No,
you know.
No, I definitely, I'm punching above my weight for sure. She'll stick to a bet. I'll give her that. Yeah, I think I got some steak knives in the deal too. It's been a good thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Our next question is from Marianne. Are you that good, Paula? You done?
Good.
Did you
All
get
right.
all right, nice to see you.
You too.
Paula or Marianne Trelevin is in Ontario, Canada. Can you unmute yourself, Marianne?
Hi.
Hi.
Hold on. Okay, that's better. Now I can see you. My question is, I have two actually. I'm looking into buying the DVDs,
Okay.
and I'm wondering if they're closed captions because I'm deaf.
Holy smokes. I am so glad you asked that. Marianne, you were on my mind and you didn't know it. So what happened is I met a Hardy a while back. It was probably a few years ago. And she was telling me she couldn't really enjoy the bonus content because it wasn't closed captioned. So all of our new stuff is all closed captioned to include the bonus content, like season 7, I think season 6. And then we made a premiere edition. It looks like that, shameless plug. And then every single thing, it's got 24 hours, but it's all closed caption. It took a long time. I mean, it was kind of, I got to feel like a studio when you're throwing somebody 24 hours of content to close caption, you know, you seem like a big shot. But I really wanted you to enjoy it. And I hope that's a blessing to you.
Now, I noticed you had the series from 1 to 7.
Yep.
Are they all closed caption? Is
They
that the
are.
one you showed me?
Yep. Same thing.
Okay.
That's
And
yes.
is the Christmas included in that?
Yes, the Christmas one's always the first. It's sort of the first episodes of the season. You know,
Okay.
It always feels different because, you know, it stands alone, you know, as its own show. And does not like a lot of the other ones where it's continuing to further the story. But yes, it's always every time. The Christmas one's been in season 4, 5, 6, and now 7. So it's just the beginning of each of those seasons.
Okay. Because I was afraid to buy it if there wasn't closed captions because it's a waste of money for me.
No, yeah. You if you have any problems or any other questions, you just call me at my office. I'm more than happy to talk to you. It's actually really important to me that you love it because I've been thinking about you, you know, just if anybody can't hear, I want it to be great. So hopefully it is. We worked hard to make it so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Nice to see you, Marianne.
Okay. Thanks, Paul.
Yeah. That's cool. So what's in the season 1 to 7, that box that you held up, that has all the episodes, and then there's also bonus content?
Yeah, it's 28 discs.
28
total.
discs. And then
28 discs. So it's got all the bonus. It actually even has the pilot movie too.
The pilot movie that Lori Loughlin was in, that kind of started it all?
Yeah.
And then you said there's bonus content closed caption after season 6, is that right?
No, every single bit of it in that set is closed captions.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what I said, because we had to go through and get going all the way back 24 hours, over 24 hours of bonus content. And it's not easy to close content a Donald Duck voice. It's tough, but we did it. We pulled it off. Took a few tries.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we got Cammie next from Hooked Hardies, who I met in Texas, right? Was it Texas, Cammie?
That's correct.
I know Cammie well. Cammie, I'm scared. I don't know what.
Hi, Elliot.
I don't know what this question is going to be. Hi, Cammie. Good to see you.
Good to see you guys too.
Cammie's a good cook.
What was that?
I said Cammie's a good cook. She was one of my favorite recipes in the first cookbook.
Well, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
I'm glad you put in 4 teaspoons of sugar instead of 4 teaspoons into the recipe. You know?
I didn't say I did.
Oh.
I'm actually worse at that than I am at cars. Yeah.
So, Paul, my question for you is, what's the wackiest question that you've ever been asked? in an
Oh.
interview. And then Elliot, what's the wackiest question that you've ever had the gumption to ask?
Oh,
The first thing that comes to mind, Cammie, is when someone asks, what's the most embarrassing thing that's ever happened to you? Because your brain goes to all those places, right? And then you're like,
Yeah.
do I share that? And if you're on the spot and it's in real time, you have to make quick decisions. You're like, that's very embarrassing, but I can't share it. That's too embarrassing. Shouldn't share that. You got to find the thing that just fits in just right, that it's entertaining enough, but not like, and then you got to decipher what was the nightmare. Is it a dream that happened, or did it really happen? Because there's a lot of embarrassing things that happen in dreams, like you're in front of the classroom with no pants on, like things like that. But that didn't actually happen, but it feels
Right.
it recurs. That's probably the wackiest question I could. I mean, there's inappropriate questions, like not inappropriate, but like who's your favorite? Who's the worst person you've ever worked with? Like that. I've actually been asked that.
That's a loaded one.
And you just got to be like, you can't. Is this your first day asking questions? Like, you can't ask that question. Yeah. What about you, Elliot? And then, guys, I have to hop up. I really apologize. I have this. It's a personal call with somebody. It's regarding my son, and I only have this little window, and I have a class, a 5-hour acting class starting at 2. So I really wanted to spend a little time, but I'll leave you in good hands with Elliot here, and you guys will see more of me. But Elliot, you're lucky to have this guy. He's funny, and he's got a great big heart. And I do have to hop off and connect everyone on a 5-way phone call. But
can you say goodbye in Donald Duck for us?
Yep.
Mama, I love you so much.
All right. I love you guys. Yeah.
Thank you.
We'll see you tomorrow at 3 o'clock for some music.
Yes.
And
Perfect.
thank you, Elliot, for being here and for helping get the CDs, shipping them for me to all these folks around the world. And Ruth, thank you for pulling this together and for being such an amazing executive assistant of mine. And I thank you guys. Sorry I have to jump off, but this is urgent, or else I would be here with you. All right.
Absolutely.
Hey,
Good
buddy.
luck.
Bye. See you, Elliot.
See ya. Okay, so now that Paul's not here,
Now,
can
we can talk about it
I
behind his back.
can really tell you this one. Because, okay, instead of telling you the craziest question, let me tell you this, okay? So this is before I was this is in my Edify Media, actually pre-Edify Media days. But I was invited to an advanced screening of The Passion of the Christ. And this was in Nashville. And so I got there, and it was a very exclusive kind of thing. Like, it was all filled with like musical celebrities and everything else. And I went there with this company I was with. And so I'm in there, and they showed The Passion, and all of a sudden you made my thing. So now my thing's huge. So I won't be able to see jazzy hands, but I don't know if anybody's seen it. The Passion of the Christ was very powerful, and it gets all done. And everybody's just stunned into silence. And the guy comes up and goes, yeah, I know you're going to have a lot of questions. I guess I'll just let Mel answer those. And I'm like, Mel? And I look over, and oh my gosh, here comes Mel Gibson. Just walks right past me and goes to the front.
Oh my word.
And Mel's like, does anybody have any questions? And nobody's saying anything. So I raise my hand. It's like, yeah. And I go, yeah, wow. Mr. Gibson, did you really jump off that building in Lethal Weapon? Because it looked so real. No, I didn't say that, but I wanted to. So, like, what's the most wacky question I ever wanted to ask? Oh my gosh, I wanted to ask that so bad, because I thought, but I knew I'd be fired. I would be fired, and that'd be the end of it. But I thought, I'll be able to tell everybody I said this. So later on, what's ironic is when I promoted the DVD release of The Passion of the Christ. And then, believe it or not, they actually had a Passion recut. They actually made another version of The Passion. A lot of people don't know that. So what he tried to do was to make a PG-13 version of The Passion, for that, that tender-hearted Christian mom that was like, I couldn't handle it, whatever.
That would be me. So
right?
I love that.
Yeah, well, they tried. And so here, what's ironic is I saw a screener of it, And so in the Passion, you've got the part where they like are flogging Jesus, and then then he pulls it back, and then you see the damage. So instead, with this new version, they come in, they go to pull back, you see kind of jerk, but it cuts away to somebody going like that. Well, your mind will fill in those gaps, and it can even make it more powerful.
Right.
And I was like, I sent an email saying, I don't, I could just picture that tender Christian mom, that Cammie, sitting there going on her popcorn going, this is the tamer version, and so I just sent him kind of an email to this one PR guy that was there, just thinking it was going to be him. And he's like, oh, and then he forwarded it to the earth, to like Mel Gibson's agent, who replied back like, ouch, what do you do? I'm like, I want to be either loved or invisible. And so anyway, I asked that guy later on, I go, well, do you think Mel Gibson would have thought that was funny? And he's like, probably not. No, not then. I mean, it was such an amazing movie to be a part of, because the thing about that film is a typical movie, right? Like a movie comes out and you can pick any one you want. And typically it comes out in that first Friday. You can almost see what the entire run of that movie is going to be in terms of financially, because they can just sort of, they got their algorithms and everything. So it's like that first week it'll come out, then it'll tend to drop in half. Then it'll tend to drop in half again, and then half again, and half again, and half again. And so they can kind of almost work the math. So the Passion of the Christ, nobody was ready for what that was going to do. I mean, I was sitting down with some studio execs, and they're like, well, we think it'll do about $50 million. And I go, well, I'll put myself out there. I think it'll do at least 100. It did 100 by like Saturday, right? And then no movie in the history of the world will ever do what this film did, because it took and it dropped in half, came out number one, drop, and then it was number one again. Can anybody guess why?
Easter.
Good job, Cammie. You won a year supply of canned squid.
Yeah.
Yes, Easter. Yeah, Easter. It came out and it was number one again, and it stayed in the theaters. Like, it came out in February. It was there all the way until August, and then they tried to kind of release the Passion recut, which, by the way, came back rated R again. In Britain, they have like an NC-15, which would be like, say, instead of like a PG-13, a PG-15. So I guess it came back as like an NC-15. One of the British Hardies could tell me if I just made something up, but that's what I was told. And, and then, that movie didn't do well because, my gosh, here we're going to put it in theaters again. It's like it just left in August. It was almost like the old days. Remember in the old days when a movie would come out and it would just sit there forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. I remember 3 Men and a Baby when I was in the Army. I'm like, why don't they just name it the 3 Men and a Baby movie theater? Because it's never going to leave, ever. And I mean, as an Army guy, that one time was pretty much good for me for 3 Men and a Baby. So anyway.
You're making my husband laugh over here, Elliot.
All right. Yeah. So any other questions?
I think we have one from Barbara Toth. Barbara, you still on? You see her on still,
Yes.
Bruce?
Yes, I'm here. Can you see
Go ahead,
me?
Barbara. Barbara's from Hungary,
hey.
Elliot.
You're from Hungary?
Hi, Elliot. Yes, I am.
Your accent is so cool. We all thinking it. I'm going to say it out loud, but everybody's thinking it.
Yeah,
Go ahead. They're not even
sorry.
want to hear my answer. They're going to want to hear your question.
Okay, thanks. So actually, I have two.
Okay.
So first of all, I'd love to hear about if you have any connection to Hungarian or Central European media corporations. I'm asking because the When Calls the Heart was available on some of the channels here, but only until the season 4. And this, we don't know the reason. We just looked for, searched for this on the internet and couldn't find anything after that. Just the possibilities some of my friends want to see. So actually, what are the reasons that they stop this here in Hungary? And when or how? What are the options to get those follow the other seasons and episodes, maybe in other channel or only on Netflix, or can we order DVDs in Hungary? So that's the question at all.
Sure.
So we don't know that. Yeah.
Sure. My only contact in Hungary, a lot of people haven't heard of her, but she's super, super cool. Her name is Barbara Toth, and she's my only contact there. So I have no contact. Yeah, in Hungary, I don't know anybody. It's a funny business when it's hard to say, right? For example, even on Netflix, you never know what's going on behind the scenes because Netflix only has seasons 1 through 5 available. And which for us is good because Netflix doesn't help feed my kids. So, and I've got one of them in college. So the DVDs are what's cool. Edify Films making DVDs cool again. That's what we're trying to do. And all of our DVDs, we have the seasons. We have people that will just buy them from the website. We don't and can't, like distribute them to say a store or anybody in Hungary. But, but we do have people that will just go to whencallstheheart.com and then buy them, but of course they're all in English, which.
So you deliver to Hungary. So
say again.
So you can deliver to Hungary?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we'll ship them to everywhere.
Okay.
And people do, and then that's where Paul will send us some pretty interesting looking addresses sometimes, for his CDs because we do ship anywhere. So.
Okay. So actually, that was my question or two in one. Yeah. Thank you.
Everything is region 0 on the new one. So the premiere edition is the one that's got the 28 disc set that's got all the bonus content and everything else. And then the what we're calling the season 1 through 7 episode edition, same deal. It's got it's all region 0.
Okay.
If that helps.
And what have you ever done anything to advertising it further? So in Hungary?
No, nor any other country. I mean, that would kind of be frowned upon. I think, we don't advertise, we're, out, in any other countries or whatever, but somehow people seem to find us.
Okay, thanks. Because I'm sure that not many people can hear or see this. Only those who are devoted to American or Canadian films, like just.
Oh yeah.
So that's a
much
question.
like Little House on the Prairie. It's neat to see Wind Calls the Heart. That it finds its audience wherever it goes. I almost think of it like sort of like a light in a dark forest that the fireflies just kind of, they're just, the Hardys gravitate to it, whatever nationality, whatever language they speak, whatever country they live in, and they're all such similar people. And just like in the Hardys family reunion that we had coming up, it's like, I tell people, it's like going to a love spa. You'll never get more hugs. You'll never get more high fives. Has anybody seen the Jazzy Hands? Has anybody seen the Hardys family reunion? The season 7 one? Yeah. Okay. So in our season 7 collector's edition, which is that one, that's got the best version of the Hardys family reunion we've ever done because it's almost like sitting there. Now, the reason is on some of the other ones, we'd go and like we'd show, say, a panel, like the actors panel or supporting actors panel. And then after that, like some Hardy'd get up and go, okay, you guys, we need you to, okay, you guys, can you guys be quiet? Because I'm waiting, you guys, that kind of thing. So I can't really put that on the DVD, but this last one, it was really kind of produced more as a program. And the reason is they had an MC. They had somebody MC the entire thing. And I'll be honest with you about this guy. His voice just grates on. It's like, great, great, great. Just gets on your nerves. Some people think he's really good looking. I don't see it. I shave him every day, but I could be just used to it. Okay. I'm just kidding. I MC'd it. Okay. But see, the quiet thing here is terrible because it's almost like selling jokes to my kids. Because then nobody laughs.
You're terrible. There, how's that?
Perfect. But anyway, the Hardys family reunions are really kind of a fun thing because we've actually had people come all the way from China, to the Hardys family reunion. It's really kind of get a feel for like, wow, there's a lot of fans of Wind Calls the Heart out there.
Right.
Yeah.
Super. Thanks
Elliot,
a lot.
one question somebody had in the chat box was, are products for sale in Canada?
Our products for sale in Canada. Who's
Yeah, it was in the chat box. Someone had asked that.
Yeah. Okay. So most of the merchandise is available at windcallstheheart.ca, and that's working with the McGinnis Farms. So that's like Melanie and Wendy. They carry most. It's just that the DVDs are trickier because there's right limitations. Like I think we're up to season 5, coming up season 6 on the DVDs. But any of the other stuff, like they'll be carrying the puzzles, they've got the masks, they've got the bandanas, everything you could think of, they've got it in Canada. You know, and it's great because the hard part for me, and this kind of goes back to Barbara too, is the shipping. You know, the shipping, it always costs so much. I mean, if you're a US purchaser, you know, we give free shipping over $50 and all that. And with the when it's outside of the country, it's very challenging because the shipping can be really expensive, and it is really expensive anyway. But then also, let's say we ship them a coffee cup and then it comes broken. Well, then we got to ship them another one, you know, and then it's, you know, so it's kind of an expensive thing. So for the longest time, we didn't do even Canada, you know, but we just finally decided we had to.
Go ahead, Ruth. You want to see who's in the chat?
Well, I was gonna say, so the DVDs are, you're saying that those are region 0. Does that mean that they can play in any? That means that they're universal?
I think. Well, I don't. All I can tell anybody is they're really going to want to check.
Okay.
With their own DVD player to do it. All I can tell them is what region it is, because to give them any implied guarantee when I really don't know. You know, everybody, I don't know. In the words of Rodney King, can't we all just get along? You know, I mean, everything's got to be so different, you know, jeepers cats. I don't know, but we still would do pounds and metrics, and, you know, we're working on it.
Yeah. Okay. And I know that, another question, Cheryl, that did we get all the questions?
Oh no, Pamela.
Pamela, that was it. Okay. Thank you.
That was it as far as I know.
Yeah. Pamela.
Hello.
Oh, there you are.
Hey, Pamela. Hi.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. I couldn't tell whether my mic was working. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing really well. Thank you for what you do.
Oh, thanks.
I have a nice little hoodie, zippered hoodie that I bought, and
Yay.
a couple of CDs.
Oh,
I
so cool.
appreciate it.
That's great.
So my question is, I was in the Navy. I was in the intel industry. I wanted to be a linguist.
I thought you looked familiar.
You know, you joke, but my first duty station was Adak, Alaska, which was where we did the intel for Russia.
Oh, wow.
It was
Mine was in Louisiana, a completely different temperature, I'm sure.
A lot of Russians there, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So how long were you in the Army?
I was in 4 years.
4 years, and that's to learn the language?
Yeah, it took, you know, it was interesting in the sense that, you know, half that time was spent just sort of, takes about 2 years to cook a linguist. And what's ironic is there's, you have tactical and strategic, you know, as you know, it sounds like you were strategic. Strategic means you're actually doing the job. You're actually, you know, monitoring what's happening in Russia. Tactical is, you know, if we go to war with Russia, we're going to need so many tanks, we're going to need so many helmets, we're going to need so many guns, we're going to need so many linguists. So they have a linguist. We're like, well, what do we do with this guy? We're not at war with Russia. Well, let's just send him into the motor pool, have him check the oil. But he checked it yesterday. Have him check it again. But he checked it the day before that. Now have him check it again. You know.
So yeah. So when were you in?
I got out in 91. I joined in 87 when I graduated high school. Class of 87.
So I was class of 86. So we kind of high-fived. I joined in 90. I was in the 90. So we kind of replaced each other.
That's funny.
Yeah, because you know, learning a language can be tough. I speak German. And so it just really surprised me that you were drawn to the Russian language.
I was, well, in retrospect, I don't know that it was the best choice. I almost joined the Navy to become a nuclear engineer, you know, on the math science stuff. And, you know, I did it. And it's one of those things that I did for, you know, college money and all of that. And, you know, I would hate to think that I would be the only thing standing between. We used to wear shirts that said, "We learn Russian, so you don't have to." I thought that was cute. But, you know, when I meet them out here, it's fun because I'll go, I'll say to them in Russian, "Долго ты меня говорил плохо, но я тренировался, теперь я говорю еще хуже," which means a long time ago I spoke Russian badly, but I've been training and now I speak it very badly.
Yeah.
Which I thought was funny.
Well,
But
you have that
sometimes when you're
humor.
trying to be funny cross-culturally, it does. Generally, I get the, "No, you speak fine, you're okay, you're nothing wrong with you," kind of thing.
Because I
Russian accent really well. That I do have a gift for.
I just noticed your humor. You're probably good on puns, and you have those bilingual puns that go that only you know are funny, and other people just don't quite get it.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I'm not sure where it is. In Russia, they have a joke of some guy standing in line to get shoes, and the line is so long, he's just getting madder and madder, and he finally leaves. And his buddy's like, "Where are you going?" He goes, "I'm gonna go shoot Gorbachev. I've had this." So he leaves, and he finally comes back, and he goes, "What's going on? What happened?" He goes, "Oh, the line to do that was even longer than this one." And in Russia, that one just kills. Like that's like, they love that joke.
Yeah, because of the lines that they used to have. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. So anyways, yeah, thank you. I just want to know a little bit about who you were.
Yeah.
I
No,
appreciate
it's
that.
it's a long time ago. I mean, I got out, like I say, in 91. And then, after that it was on to college.
Well, thank you for your service. I appreciate
Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you for yours.
Thank you. I was in the Navy, so it was all fun. Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Beautiful.
No, mine wasn't so fun. When you're in Louisiana, it's 107 degrees and 98% humidity at midnight, and you're sleeping in your underwear in a mosquito net, hearing pigs running around and snakes and the whole thing. When people say thank you for your service, I remember those days.
So real quick, when I was in ADAX, it's a little island in the middle of the Aleutian chain. We used to have off-island sport competitions, and it would be amazed at the sport you would try to do just so you can get a ticket to Spokane or Bremerton, Washington. I mean, I didn't even know how to bowl, but I took up bowling. I took up volleyball, anything. So you can just get a spot on that team to fly off that island.
That is really interesting.
Go to Washington.
That's funny. Of all the places to say, Bremerton, Washington, because I grew up in Port Orchard, Washington.
Okay.
Which is right across the Sound. And I think I might have even went bowling there. That's very.
There was a big competition. You see a lot of Navy folk there.
I'm telling you, the universe cannot be an accident, people.
Anyways, thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks, Pamela.
I didn't realize that because I'm from Tacoma, so that's where I'm from.
That's
now I live in Yelm, but
yeah,
that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I'll tell you a little tidbit. When I joined the Army, I joined with a very, very good friend of mine, and we were in band together. I've known him since 8th grade, and he was a Russian linguist just like me, and he ended up dying in Desert Storm. And it was a very impactful time for me. It's one of the things that really brought me to Christ, only because, he was such a similar person. We were even born in the same hospital. I mean, it's just a very unique thing. And it's like one of those times that when you're young, that first death that just pierces that veil of invincibility. And the interesting thing, sort of small world, his mother married the former mayor of Tacoma. I don't know who the guy is. I can't remember his name. Yeah, but this is sort of a small world, but yeah, very, very, very cool guy, very funny guy, but it's none of us, my dad who passed away a while, when he'd go to the hospital, my dad was a very funny guy, and he'd grab the doctor, because everybody's so serious there, and he'd grab the doctor and goes, "Hey," and bring the doctor down. And my dad looked around and go, "None of us are getting out alive." Just to be funny, and he had brain cancer, and he was going in for surgery, and everything's so serious, how it is. They're getting him already. And I go, I do have a question, and they all stop. All the nurses, they all look at me, and I go, just as a percentage, how many people go through this kind of a surgery, this kind of a procedure, and end up with some kind of superpower? And you just say that because they're so tense, and it makes the joke explode. It just makes it so much funnier. The doctor gets all done. The thing was fine. The doctor's like, "Well, everything checks out here. Did the nurse say anything else is needed?" And I go, "Yeah." I go, "I don't know." She said, "You needed to do a rectal probe." And he goes, "A rectal probe? Why would why would he need a rectal probe? And I'm like, I don't know. I just know she was pretty insistent. He needed a rectal probe. And my dad, so there is, because he's still pretty out of it. He's like, he's messing with you. You know, and when he comes out, like he first came through and I look down at him, I go, hi, I am your son, Elliot. You are you? Get a little bit of everything, you know.
Elliot, thank you for your time today. You had seen one of Paul's CDs, I guess, back at the beginning of the summer, I think it was, and thank you so much. And my husband and I have been watching Wind Calls the Heart since day one.
That's yeah, me too.
Day one. We don't miss an episode if we do. We do DVD it, but that's not too often. It's one show we don't answer phone calls. We are dedicated to it and
That's
love it.
really cool. I think that is so neat. You know,
Just the values in this show. We've had many discussions. You know, Ruth and I do a Mondays group with the ladies group. It's a spinoff from Paul's group, you know, with the transformation course. And we've had so many good discussions, you know, and also in this group too, of the values that Wind Calls the Heart brings to people. And I think that's why it's so global.
yeah,
It's really amazing. So thank you for everything.
Oh, my pleasure. It's really a fun thing to create things that people love. And, you know, we obviously don't help create the show, but we do try to help elevate it and get people to know the actors better. And you know, it's really kind of it's a neat place, you know, it's a neat place to visit when you go, you know, because over the years you figure, you know, we've been on the set every, you know, seven years now, I think. Kind of weird now, you know, trying to, you know, you can't go up and all of that, but like, you know, I just all of them are really cool. I mean, I would listen to Kevin read the phone book, you know. That guy has got, like, I love to tell stories. I come up from a family of guys that tell stories, but I mean, Kevin has got a million. Like, if you've never seen any of our Hope Valley highlights, his most embarrassing moment is like incredibly funny. His, I asked him one little thing. What's the first band you saw in concert? And then that one little story, like everybody else might say, you know, Devo or who knows, you know, and he just had this whole incredible story just wrapped around that. I mean, it's incredible. You know, he's really remarkable. They all are. I mean, they all are. Martin Cummings is, first of all, Martin Cummings is that guy's built like a tank. I always think of, like, if when they have those shows, like if Henry Gowan ever like takes his shirt off to chop wood or something, people are gonna be like, I ain't messing with Henry, you know. He can be mayor. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah, that guy's he's seriously, and he, like, you know, he does jujitsu and totally a down to earth guy. I mean, we had this one where he talked about basically just wanted to take a break from acting, and because, you know, he grew up like working on his dad's fishing boat, and he missed that feeling of working hard where you would just sleep, like you'd fall asleep because you'd be so tired. So he stops acting and starts roofing houses. Who does that? That's a really remarkable guy. And I got a blue collar background. My dad, they want to picture him, picture Fred Flintstone. That was my father, you know, and that, you know, Martin, that appealed to me. That just like, man, I will love you till the day I die, you know, for being like that, you know, and then being a bike messenger and everything. I mean, yeah, it's really cool, but I'm such a glad thing. It's a blessing to, you know, I've been friends with Michael Landon and Brian Bird, you know, for like 16 years. And
wow, that's
Michael,
a long time.
Yeah, I mean, didn't really even think about that, you know, until like really actually started going, oh my gosh, you know, sort of working the math. And I really think the perception that people may have had of Michael's father is actually Michael. I mean, Michael's he's just a very, not saying his dad wasn't, but Michael's just a sold out Christian guy. I mean, he's terrific, you know, and he's super fun. You want to hear a Michael Landon story? I got a good one. Okay, so I'll tell you two things. Okay, so Michael and I actually were working on a script together, comedy, right? And so I went out and stayed at his house, and we're shooting pool. And I'm like, I gotta catch my flight, man. I go, and he goes, oh, okay. And he's pretty good. I mean, and I was in the military, you know, we play pool. So I was like, okay, no problem. And then he just like goes whack, 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 knocks like ball in, whack, 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 like knocks 6 of them in a row, like cleans the table. And I'm like, what was that? What are you sloughing? What do you think we're going to gamble? You waiting for me to start saying we should make this interesting? What are you holding back for? And he's laughing. Oh my gosh, he's laughing so hard. And I go, Rackham, I want to see your best game. I go, don't hold back anything. He goes, you got to catch a flight. And I'm like, I'll miss my flight. I go, I want to see your best game. So he's laughing, and then he starts playing, and he didn't have anymore. And he actually had just gotten lucky, but he totally fooled me. You know, I thought he was some kind of like, you know, pool shark or something like that, you know, just growing up around his dad, you know, and everything. He tells a great story at the Hardy's family reunion about needing money, and his parents were gone, and trying to sell tours to the land and estate. Did anybody see that? So funny. Yeah, he's funny. He's funny. When you watch that Hardy's family reunion, the whole thing kicks off with me interviewing him, Jeanette Oak, and Brian Bird, because I hear all these stories, and from all of them, just stuff that you wouldn't normally get. Nobody's going to think to ask Michael, you know, tell us about when you worked out with Lyle Alzado. It's really interesting. And, you know, just sitting there at his house where it's just surreal growing, you know, my dad was a furnace technician. His dad was a worldwide uber famous television star. And it's just sort of weird to be there and like have his dad's People's Choice Awards. That scared me to death because he had it in like a kind of like a little guest kind of bungalow. And I'm like out there and I'm like, the universe will push that to me and make me break it. Just by the very nature of me, that thing's going to get broken. Like it's going to be too tempting. You know, like my best friend says I could go into eat a bologna sandwich and walk out of the restaurant with a pickle on my forehead, you know? And I mean, so I was terrified. I wouldn't even go to that side of the room. But anyway, next.
I'm the same way.
Yeah.
Okay, and we do have a couple other questions, but I also wanted to make sure before, and I see those questions. I know, Elliot, I think you had, isn't there like a product that you have coming up that maybe you wanted to mention to make people aware of that you're rolling out soon?
Yeah, I don't have any surprise products. The big one is, the two big ones coming up is our 4th cookbook. Jazz Hands, did you guys know we made the Wind Calls the Heart cookbook? Okay, so here's how this started. And if you're curious, you can go to Edify or facebook.com/Edify Films. You can see the video. But going to these Hardy's family reunions, I kept watching over and over. They'd always ask questions about food. You know, Aaron, I know your character, do you like to cook? I mean, it'd be all the time. I'm like, we really need a cookbook. But I didn't want to make like the obvious thing. Let's make cookbooks from the era. You can cook squirrel just like our prairie ancestors did, you know, in the 1900s. I just didn't want that cookbook. I wanted to know what you guys cook. I wanted your secret weapons. Everybody's got one. My wife has one. Hers is ribs. Everybody's got their secret weapon. I wanted to have a cookbook of that. I wanted to have yours, the stuff you, and I've had people do, I never share this with anybody, that stuff. Like I wanted those recipes. So the way we did it is I was in my kitchen and Brian Bird happened to be in town. And I'm like, hi, I'm Elliot Wallach, president of Edify Films. Maybe some of you have heard, maybe some of you don't know, but I make a mean bowl of cereal. And then the idea was, you know, I'm like, I go, but you know what, don't take my word for it. I've got Brian Bird from Wind Calls the Heart. Brian, taste that cereal. And Brian's like, wow, that's a mean bowl of cereal. And I'm like, I know, but what am I going to do? If you bring Lori and Aaron and, you know, whoever over, I mean, I can't give them cereal. Hardy's, I need your help. So we had hundreds of recipes that were sent in, hundreds. And so then we cooked like, we looked through and we cooked like a bunch of them. And then we took our favorites and put them in. Now, if something happened to taste like feet, we didn't put those in. So everything had to taste good. So then that cookbook was a hit. Believe it or not, I actually didn't realize this until it blew me away. We have sold more volume 1 cookbooks than any single DVD. I did not know that. It was a huge runaway success. So then we did that was Dining with the Hardys. Then we did the volume 2 cookbook, which was Another Hardy Helping. And then I forget what we called the other, Dining with the Hardys 3 or something for the 3rd one. Then the 4th one, I kind of did something different. There's this one, Noreen Cox is a cookbook author and she specializes in themed desserts. So then we made a volume 4 cookbook that comes out November 3rd. And it follows the entire series from season 1 through 7 with like fun desserts inspired by things from the show. And they're cute. They're really cool. And then that one comes out November 3rd. And then the other thing everybody's been screaming at me for was a puzzle because everybody's trapped at home. And I can't even tell you how many, it was like trying to find a date for senior prom again. I could not find a manufacturer to make my puzzle. I looked everywhere. I mean, I finally found this company, and you know what? It's a really established company. They make board games. And you know why I was able to get in? This guy told me, he goes, I can't believe we took you on as a customer. He goes, we've had 40 people apply to be customers. We turned down all but 2, and you're one of them. You know why? The front desk lady, diehard, When Calls the Heart fan. Whoop, whoop. Yeah. So then now we got puzzles, and those come out, I think, December 3rd. And I don't know if you guys saw it. We went nuts. We made this little animation graphic thing, but I don't know. We're drunk with power. We're a production company. We can do stuff. So yeah, so we got puzzles and we got the cookbook coming up. And then I'm actually going to start invite you guys can be the first kids in the block to know this, but I'm starting actually to get ready for the volume 5 cookbook and invite everybody to send recipes again. The kids love it because we have this guy that comes over, like, you know, he's a professional chef. And so the kids, I mean, they love it. I seriously gained 15 pounds with every cookbook. And with COVID, I cannot afford to do that because the guy's sitting there. I don't know if you've seen my video talking about this, but I kid you not, like I'd be in this office working and he'd come in and he'd be like, bring me a dish. He did it. And not 2 hours later, it'd be like, I'd be eating like 7 meals a day. And you're like, be gone, peasant. I've already had 3 bites. Freshen my palate with something new. You know, it was just like, I just like continually, I felt like it was like that. What was that one Twilight Zone where they would like fattening them up because the aliens were going to eat them? I was feeling like that. Like, am I on the menu? What are we going for here? But I don't know.
Right.
I'm not going to complain.
Yeah.
It's actually quite fun.
I know that Lisa Taylor definitely has a question. So Lisa, if you could unmute yourself. Oh, there you are. I see you. So I think you can unmute yourself. Yes, go ahead.
Yep, I'm unmuted. Well, I'm the Australian you had to send the CD to.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but we had a problem and it got lost. And then you had to send another one.
Did we? Oh, no problem. Consider it done.
So, thank you very much for that.
No, email me at Elliot, ELLIOTT at edifyfilms.com. And Lisa, just be careful how you spell Elliot, because if you really wreck it, it will spell toilet at edifyfilms.com. So be careful. Especially
no, I'm just saying thank you. I've got it now.
We got it worked out.
It was all worked out.
What happened is I came on and we got it worked out. That's
right.
Ruth Hill isn't a Hardy. Ruth Hill is the Hardy. Yeah. And by the way, Lisa, cool accent. Everybody's thinking it again.
No. Well, my question is,
yes,
I have Hope Valley coming out because Australia doesn't have Hope Valley at all.
Oh,
so when it comes out, sorry,
you said I have Hope Valley. You mean When Hope Calls?
When Hope Calls, yes,
yeah,
season 1. We've got that coming out. When it comes, we'll probably get it next year sometime with postage. Postage is a killer. So I'd love to live next door, but the puzzle. There's the Christmas puzzle and there's the lake puzzle. So by the time I get the puzzle, it'll probably be January or February next year. The way COVID postage is at the moment. But the pieces, how big or small are they? Have you seen the puzzle itself?
No, but I know what the dimensions are in the box. In fact, if you go to the website, I think we even have it on there, like what the dimensions of the box are. If not, you can still email me and I'll email you back. But I'm gonna say it's something like 12 by 2 by 9, but it's enough that fits into one of the USPS's boxes. I don't think the size of the box is gonna be. In other words, if it's a 1,000-piece puzzle, I did that because I want you guys to think I'm really cool. Those people that are like the purists of the puzzles, you know, and. You know, so I don't think it's going to be any more, or I think it's more on the weight, but
okay.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you, you know, and then if you order it, our goal would be that they ship December 3rd or designed to send it where we actually will try to make it arrive in the States December 3rd. So there's no way you're not getting it by Christmas. I'm positive, even in Australia.
I am positive I won't be getting it in Australia by then.
Oh, okay. You know better than me. You'd know better than me. I just know that you saying it sounded cooler than the way I said it.
So have you ever been to Australia? That's my question.
Haven't. That's a bucket list thing. I would love to. I've only been to Mexico and Canada. I've never actually left the continent, mostly because I don't think the other continents want me, which hurts a little. But you know, the thing is, I actually asked Daniel Lissing once about the accent because I was just fascinated. I'm like, okay, because you can do the both, right? Like you do the Australian accent, but then you also do the American accent, and both of them just sound perfect. I go, so you come over here, and then you got your Australian accent, you know, and you know, girls are just going weak in the knees over that. So do you bring your American accent back to Australia? And he had to gently tell me, nobody cares about your American accent, mate. You know, we all see it on TV. It's not that he said it much cooler than that and much nicer than that. Basically, it was like it's not as rare, you know, because you guys watch it all on the TV. But I think it's like, I mean, I just think that this Australian accent, and then Australians just seem so nice. Like I want to go there.
We are.
Australia is a mystery to me. I'm gonna tell you 2 reasons why. Australia is like, it started from criminals, and then all these criminals made like the nicest people on the planet. How'd that happen? And then why are the nicest people on the planet stuck on an island with like the most poisonous things on the planet? You know, you guys have all these spider, like some of the deadliest everythings are all in Australia. You should write a strongly worded letter, because it doesn't have to be that way. In Spokane, we don't have anything poisonous except for our politicians, but they are pretty bad.
Oh, we've only got our snakes now.
We don't have
They're
anything
not
like
too
we don't
bad.
We don't have anything like that. I mean, we got like garter snakes. I think in the mountains they might have a rattle, so we don't have anything. We don't have anything.
Well,
We don't even have bad. We don't even have bad breath. We're amazing. We're attractive people.
You've got to come out for koalas and kangaroos.
I would love to come out. Who's with me? Jazz hands.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Hey, good news. It's on Paul. Woohoo!
I'll be sure to tell him that. I'm sure he wouldn't mind having.
You have to break the news to him, Ruth.
Yeah, exactly. He doesn't realize that he's financing a whole trip that all of us are going to Australia on.
Got a pilot license.
Of course, we could do that.
On a corporate jet.
On a corporate jet.
He's got the pilot license. He won't even have to hire the pilot. His mom will pray. It's going to be a win-win.
Thanks, Elliot. You've been amazing.
That's all right.
Oh, goodness.
Thank
you.
you.
So I think we do want to wrap this up because I know we're a little bit over time here, and but okay. So if you guys have won a signed CD, a signed Paul Greene CD, jazz hands right now. If you have won a signed Paul Greene CD, because this is like the guy you have to thank. I mean, you have to thank him too. Like he's like the reason you get those. And
oh, my pleasure. My pleasure.
Well, we are very grateful for that. That's been because Paul mentions you in the concerts quite regularly.
I appreciate it a lot.
So.
Keeps the kids fed. I'm still working out the details with Paul, but what we're going to do is set up where I'm going to send out a signed Paul Greene CD and a signed box of salad croutons from me. It's going to be a big deal. We're going to break the internet.
That would haven't heard.
And I don't mean the box. I mean each individual crouton hand signed by my children in my name.
Okay.
Because I'm too busy. I'm a big deal around here.
Yes, we know.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. Okay. I think we had one. If you have not won a signed CD, don't worry. They're not quite ending. Paul's still trying to decide exactly when he's ending them. So he keeps going back and forth. So I'm not sure. I've heard different things. They're not ending. So don't worry if you haven't won one. We're trying. Okay. I think we do have time for one more question. I think Paula Waters wanted to come back with one more question. So Paula, are you still on here? Yes. Okay. Go ahead and ask your last question here.
All right, Elliot. I was just interested. If you could go back in time to the When Calls the Heart days for a couple of years, would you do it, and how would you fare?
Oh, I'd do fine. Would I do it for a couple, like to take a break from all this crazy stuff?
Like bring your family a couple of years, go live back in the time.
Yeah, well, because I tell you what I would do. I would go there and I would buy stock in various companies, and then I would leave it to my, I don't know, address or something. Yeah, I think, I mean, who wouldn't, I mean, I think the adventure side of it would be pretty amazing. Yeah, I think it's easy sometimes to look at those times. I think Jeanette Oak even talked about it, but the stuff that we appreciate, that you would all of a sudden go, your phone would get pretty useless in a hurry. but the, you know, I don't know, like the whole idea of, I mean, all the stuff they used to wear. Like, I love old pictures. Like, it's one of my favorite things. Like when you go to those restaurants and sometimes they have those pictures and it's like quite old, and all the guys they always are dressed up and they got like their suits and their hats. And I always think, what took somebody so long in that kind of environment to invent deodorant? You would have think like that'd be the first thing you'd think we can do better as a people than this. You'd think that'd be the first thing somebody'd create. I just always wonder, because they'd wear the same suit, like they'd wear it day after day after day too. And I often think this is sort of a different, and not really necessarily the answer to your question, but I think wealth has nothing to do with what you have. I think wealth is largely defined by having something nobody else has. Because truthfully, we're all wealthier than the pharaohs. The pharaohs didn't have, I mean, the whole idea of having hot and cold water, and I mean, we actually have so much water, we pee in it. It's everywhere. You know, I mean, it's really kind of,
your mind is always going.
It never stops, you know, but the idea of going back there and, you know, and even in this time of this pandemic and, you know, because it's interesting, you know, the 1918, you know what the average lifespan was in 1918? If you look it up, like it'd be, you know, they didn't live quite as long. Like you'd see like people live to say 50s or whatever, but 1918, the average man lived about 35 years old.
That's it?
That's it. And it was because of the Spanish flu.
All right.
I mean, like the pandemic that we're dealing with now, I mean, the Spanish flu is a 10% mortality rate and even 20% in certain other countries. And I mean, and it was unforgiving. I mean, people would get it and then in a few days they just would be no more. But they didn't even do some of the stuff that we're doing now. And I don't know if you saw my little video where I talked about, you know, I was kind of seeing some of it coming. Did anybody see me do that video? I can't jazz hands. Anybody see the video? So basically because I was working on this movie script that had this pandemic element, I was a little bit more, I knew a lot about the Spanish flu. And so when I saw them shut down a city like Wuhan, which is like 2 Chicagos, I was like, I need to pay attention to that. So I'm looking at it and I'm seeing crazy things. They're hijacking trucks of toilet paper in Hong Kong. Like it's a crime scene, like it's a movie, a heist of toilet paper. And I told my wife, I'm like, we have got to go buy some extra toilet paper. People are going to lose their minds. We're not going to find any toilet paper in this town. So we went to Costco and they had all the toilet paper I would have wanted right there. So we bought like 3 of the family packs. And the lady's like, well, that's a fair amount of toilet paper. What's that for? And I go, oh, our bottoms. And she's like, I knew that. And Tiffany, she's like trying to change the subject. I like your shirt. Can we talk about that? What about your shirt? What do you buy it? You know, because she's worried I'm going to start talking about, you know, the coronavirus. Because you start talking about it to people back then, everybody thought I was talking about a band or something, you know. But to go back in those days, you know, in some senses, it's like, am I actually going back to 1918 or am I going back to Hope Valley? You know, am I hanging out with, you know, Lee and Pascal? You know,
go back to where there's no technology, no just family, just value family. And that's the way I look at it back then. You don't have,
yeah,
you know,
absolutely. Technology is definitely a double-edged sword. You know, and it's even one of those things that I you know, I feel a little bit like Axl Rose saying, you know, I know heroin's not good for me, but I just like it. I know cocaine's not good for me, but I just love the way it smells, you know. You know, because I'm just as bad as anybody, you know, with the phones and, you know, and all of that. And it's like, let's spend together time as a family, like my parents did. Let's sit down for dinner and look at our phones. You know, it's like to have it all sort of eliminated like that. But the biggest thing is, I think the thing that I miss the most, that I'm sure was in 1918 and it was in 1980, in 1987, that you could walk around, you know, that was safe. My parents never knew where I was. They didn't have any way to call me, you know, or any of that stuff. And then I just came home and the lights, and I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate to this, the lights would go out and that meant it was time. That was your timer, you know, that was mom calling you. It was almost your bat signal, time to go home. And it was just safe. they had a little girl that the mother had dropped her off, like she was like 9, dropped her off at the park, and she was arrested for abandoning her child and at the park. And the crazy part is, I get it. I never ever leave my 9-year-old at the park. But then the question is, if that lady deserves to be arrested, then my mom deserves the electric chair. But it was because it's such a different, it's
So
just a different
true.
time,
Yeah.
you know?
Right. Oh,
Good
So-
answer.
yes, very good answer. Very good answer. All right. Well, I think we got, hopefully we got all the questions answered. You know, if your question didn't get answered, Elliot's pretty good at responding. You can always reach out to Edify Films, and he's usually pretty he's pretty good about that. So if you have a question, or if you guys want to reach out to me, I'm happy to reach out to him, because I feel like I'm always reaching out to you now.
Yeah, it's all good. I love hearing from you, Ruth. Yeah, and if anybody's got a question, you can even just wave your hand. I don't mind answering.
Right. If there's if
That'd
there
be easier than
is-
typing.
Yeah, that is true. If there's anyone, I'm just looking, kind of scrolling through here to see if anybody.
Oh,
had-
Gail.
Oh, Gail. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, Gail. Yeah.
Hi, I know we kind of covered this vaguely, but what do you think the true success is of When Calls the Heart? Why it's lasted so many years?
I'm gonna give you two reasons. I think, I think that the show, is just resonates in a way with people where, you've got a warmness that exists on the set that I think transcends the screen. That, I think there's certain things that it's hard to write and it's hard to capture that, I mean, there's not a doubt in my mind that Cavan would take a bullet for Pascal. I mean, they really are really good friends. I mean, not a shadow of a doubt in my mind, that she'd give him a kidney. They're just, they really, really care about each other. And I think it's sort of it's a unique intersection of, of a bunch of really cool people, working with stories and people that really care about servicing their community. Having said that, I think that the analogy that I'm going to give you is like a helium balloon. When you take a helium balloon, you let it go and it flies up in the air, it feels like that balloon is flying on its own power. But the reality is, it's the atmosphere pushing down that propels that helium balloon up. It's actually the atmosphere making the helium go up. I think that there's so much despair, there's so much darkness, there's so much decadence that you will naturally find a way to escape to something. And the reality is, there's not anything out there that it can compete with it. I see people sometimes and they'll get so upset about whatever, it's upset. And we've had a lot of crazy things, haven't we? I mean, seriously, you had the deal when Daniel left the show, then you had Lori, and just people it's like, where are you going to go? Where are you going to go? I can't watch anything now, without fast forwarding, something. And then, and forget it, like with the kids, with my kids, I mean, in some ways it's almost worse, because let's say you have a television show and you don't like it and you want that network to do it. Now, what typically people do is they'll just stop watching it. They'll boycott it. I'm not watching your show. The most effective thing you could actually do is to start writing their advertisers. I'm not going to support, I'm not buying Downey anymore. Now that's getting expensive. I'm not buying Crest. I'm buying something else. I'm not buying Coke. But when it's on Netflix or whatever, how do you can't do that. You can't threaten an advertiser. You say, well, I'm not going to watch Netflix. And they don't, like with that other thing that they had recently, it's like, oh, bye. There's not anything, there. And I'm convicted about, my dream, like I said, is to make movies, to understand me. I like to impact people. It comes from every part of me. That's where I like to be funny with you. I like to impact people, and I want to do it in movies. I think movies are the most powerful art form ever created by man. But then the question begs, so, you know, in my career, everybody's like, we got to send a message to Hollywood. You got to let Hollywood know we're going to support these films. And they know. Criminy, you go make a movie like The Facing the Giants for $100 grand and it makes $10 million. You make God's Not Dead. That costs like $500,000. It made like $70 million. You know, they absolutely know, you know, that it's there. Where the Bible says, you know, where your treasure is, your heart will be also. The real question is, why isn't there more like When Calls the Heart when it's so successful? Why aren't they making more?
Right.
You know, I swear it's almost like sexual content. It's almost like, you know, there are people that make a lot of money with product placement. You know, like you're going to be talking, you got like the bottle of whatever, just sitting there, just sitting on the table. And that's going to make you want to go buy a Coke.
Right.
You know, Tiger Woods gets millions of dollars, got a little Nike swoosh right there because that's going to make you want to go buy some shoes. Right. Okay. There's never been a product in the history of cinema that's gotten more product placement than premarital sex. Never. It's everywhere. And it's almost like, remember those old movies like you'd watch like the Gracie Allen ones, and then they'd have their show going, and all of a sudden they'd stop and he'd go, "What are you doing, dear?" And she's like, "I'm having a cup of coffee just like Johnny made, you know, because this coffee cleared up my acne and made me lose 8 pounds, and now you can't keep your eyes off me." Whatever it is, right? Now, it's almost like, I swear, it's almost like they take a pause from the show. Like I was watching this one show that had nothing to do with anything. And all of a sudden I've got it, like this guy all of a sudden is all over some girl. And it's like, where'd this come from? It's almost like we interrupt this show to bring you a word from our sponsor, Premarital Sex. It's like, you know, I mean, you know, when you're a person of faith, it makes total sense. You know, when you're a person of faith, nobody's ever walked out of a movie and gone, I would really like that movie if there was just a little bit more obscenity, especially if they would have taken God's name in vain just maybe 5 more times. I would have really liked it. Nobody says that, but people absolutely will say it on the other side. It will literally cost them money. So then why do it? That's the real question. So I don't know. So hopefully someday, you know, God willing, you know, there'll come a time that if God puts me on that, you know, playing field, that we'll be bringing you some more stuff and then we can ask it. I'd like to get some more helium balloons in the atmosphere.
Okay, we're good.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. Good
I
question.
think this was like absolutely awesome, and I saw like
my
a lot of good interviews through COVID from the cast, and I got the same feeling that what you were echoing, Elliot, about just so down to earth and how they click. And Paul said the same thing, how the crew just really clicks together.
Mm-hmm. No, it really, we enjoy it every time we go. Yeah, in fact, that's been, there's certain things that you lament with COVID, there's certain things you're robbed of, and that's one of them.
But the blessing is we got to meet you on Zoom and Paul. And and you know, this beautiful group that Paul and, you know, Kate and went transformation. You know, like when Paul came out in the beginning, he told you like how we're all kind of connected with him. If it wasn't for COVID, we wouldn't be here today talking with you. And we went, some of us transferring our life, and we've met a beautiful global group of friends now.
I know it.
And awesome.
We're all got a place to stay at Lisa's house in Australia.
That's right. Paul's gonna put the bill.
The hits just keep on coming.
We got our pilot to take us.
That's right. That's right.
I know we got a pilot the plane. Paul's gonna probably need to ask for more money next year to cover some of this, but that's okay.
Can I say one more thing?
Right. Hey, yeah. Okay, so guys, if you would like to unmute and like show your appreciation to Elliot, if you want to unmute, I mean, like you can unmute and you can say thank you, applaud, whatever you'd like to. If you'd like.
Thanks,
to.
Elliot.
Thank you, Elliot.
Thank you.
Elliot.
Thank you.
Elliot, it was so nice to talk with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
you for everything.
Thanks,
We should all
Elliot.
laugh too, maybe.
Hey, Elliot. Elliot.
Yes.
Very
Hey, and I just wanted to say something, Elliot, real quick.
Yeah.
One thing that COVID's brought out is that there is a vacuum all over the world for the product that you're providing. So I really hope that we can get more people to promote you, because I see a big need for this. And anytime there's a vacuum, something goes in to fill it. And I really would like your products to fill that vacuum.
Well, thanks. I think that COVID's, it's funny that Paul described us as Edify Films making DVDs cool again. I thought that was pretty cool. So
We got a lot of background noise from someone.
yeah, it's not us. Yeah, I got a CB, a breaker, lost sheep. Shepherd, lost sheep. Come in.
Somebody's got the TV on.
Yeah, somebody's got something. Yeah.
Well, I guess I'll see you, Elliot, in Australia with everyone else.
I would, yeah, I do. You want to buy some sheets? Yeah.
And we got a huge property. We can ride the horses and see all the kangaroos and the panda bears.
That's right.
The one I'm getting a kick out of is Tammy Grisham from California, who's in her car watching us, and I see like the people now I picture you're like in a limo. Like you could fund this, I think.
No. I'm in a passenger in the back seat.
I think it's so cool. It's cool looking. It's like, it's like lovely.
I'm on my way.
I'm
on my way to a birthday party for a 2-year-old.
Oh, okay. All right.
Awesome, Tammy.
Lisa, we're gonna be a little late. We got to go to a birthday party.
That's right.
That's all right.
Well, I seriously thank you, Elliot. I'm so glad you were able to come. I know it might seem, I'm sure it probably was unusual for me to make that request.
No. Nothing surprises me anymore.
Enjoyed it.
No, I enjoyed it.
Well,
Enjoyed it.
It was a lot of fun.
And thank you guys for being here. And so we'll just go ahead and we'll just sign off and thank you. Thank you for giving us extra time too, Elliot. That was very nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
For organizing it.
Thank you, Ruth.
Thank you.
My dad, by the way.
Cool. You're the definition.
Thank you, Elliot.
All right.
Thanks, Elliot. Ruth.
Thanks so much, Ruth. Everybody have a great day.
Bye.
Thanks, Ruth.
Bye.
Bye.